What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia Hero of the Week. And this week's Hero of the Week is none other than Lightning. So let's learn a little bit something about Lightning. First off, her real name is Claire Farron. Now, she is the main protagonist of Final Fantasy XIII, and she also played a little small part on Final Fantasy XIII 2, then became the main protagonist again in Final Fantasy XIII Lightning Returns. She is also a former sergeant of the Guardian Corps. In an effort to save her one and only sister, she gives up everything she has to battle against destiny. While her unsociable demeanor once made her seem unapproachable, she realizes that she is not alone during her journey, ultimately opening her heart to others. She also uses the Gunblade as her main weapon, being the second character, main protagonist character that actually uses a gunblade. Now that we know a little something about our hero of the week, it's time to look at her weapons and armors. Let's take a look at the weapons first. So Lightning actually doesn't have any 4-star weapon, which is a little bit unusual. Like most characters, they will have their 4-star weapon, and you can obviously upgrade it and you get a little bit bonus for your troubles. But her first weapon is the Blaze Fire Saber, which increases the Spark Strike potency and that of the Blaster stance. This grants a medium attack up for 3 turns. Her second weapon, which is her 35 CP weapon, is the Flamberg, and I hope I pronounced that right. This increases the Flourish of Steel's potency and that of the Striker's stance. This grants a Brave regen for 3 turns. It also lowers the action delay when lightning breaks an enemy. And finally, we have her latest weapon that just recently come out in Japan, which is Overture. Overture grants Lightning her EX ability, Army of One, which is basically a 1-hit Brave plus HP attack, which is then followed by a 2-hit Brave plus HP attack, and then followed again by another 2-hit Brave and HP attack. This raises her Brave potency if the target is broken. She also restores her own HP based on the total HP damage dealt for up to 10% of her max HP. If the healing amount exceeds the max HP, the excess is then converted to Brave. This delays the target by 1 turn and grants the Knight of Etro for 3 turns. This doesn't consume ability use on the next turn, and if the Ravager stance is active, Army of One turns to Army of One Plus. Knight of Etro grants the Thunder Enchant and raises the max Brave and attack. If lightning breaks an enemy while Knight of Etro is active, this nullifies the action delay and grants a free turn that does not count towards the total turn count, except during summons of course, and friend supports. And now let's take a look at some of her armors. Now there are only 2 armors available for Lightning at this time, and the first one is called the Aurora Scarf, which basically gives you an 84 defense plus, which is, I suppose, okay, but Lightning is more of a DPS character, so actually giving it a 5-star treatment, probably not the best use of your resource. But hey, if you have the extra resource, you can go ahead and 5-star this bad boy. The next one is the Royal Armlet, which basically grants herself a initial Brave of 110 and a max Brave of 220. In all honesty, you'll probably want to invest your resource on this armor because it will give you the Well of Bravery and Destruction passive ability. Well, it'll become useful in time when they finally release another armor for lightning, but as for now, this is the best armor that you can get in the game. And now let's take a look at her active and passive abilities. Again, we'll start with the active abilities, which is the first one is the Spark Strike. Basically a 3-hit brave attack which grants herself the Ravager stance for 3 turns and removes the Striker's stance. The action delay is lowered if the target is broken. The Blaster stance raises her max brave and her speed. The next one that I want to talk about is the Flourish of Steel, which is basically a 3-hit brave attack plus an HP attack. This grants the Striker stance or Commando stance, if you want to go with that, for 3 turns and removes the Blaster stance, and the action delay is lowered if the target is broken. The Striker stance raises her max brave and her attack. Now, a small mention on the HP attack plus and the brave attack plus, but these are only available currently when you have her Strength Crystal passive of level 55 and Strength level of 60. And HP attack plus is only activated when she is on her Blaster stance or Ravager stance. The Brave attack plus is only up when she has her Striker stance up or her Commando stance, if you whatever you want to call it. Next up is the Army of One ability, which is her EX ability. Now, I've already explained how the Army of One ability works from the weapon, but I didn't mention much about the Army of One Plus, which I did mention that you have to be in the Ravager stance or the Blaster stance in order for you to activate Army of One Plus. Basically, the extra things that you'll get is basically it will delay the target by 2 turns. Other than that, there is really nothing else different from the initial Army of One. So now let's go through her passive abilities, but I do want to note that I'll just be saying them because there are a lot. We'll go through the above 50 because I think those are the ones that you will probably want to know about. So the first one she's got is Spark Strike Light, Break Speed Up, Buff Speed Up, Flourish of Steel Light, Spark Strike Charge, Flourish of Steel Charge, Ability Speed High, Buff Attack, and of course her Blinded by Light. Now, I think the most interesting ones are obviously the ones that are past level 50, which are not currently out in the global version. But I do still want to note here, because I think these are the ones that are quite interesting and for you guys would probably want to know. At Crystal Strength 54, she gets the buff boost, which basically raises her max brave while she is buffed. She's got the Spark Strike Extend, increases her Spark Strike use by 1 and increases its potency, and slightly improves the Blaster's max brave buff effect. It also extends the buffs granted by Spark Strike by 2, and of course she gets her HP attack plus while she's on this stance. Next is the ability Attack High, which slightly raises her brave damage when she's using abilities continuously. Now this is a little bit interesting because some people actually don't keep using her ability. Now you have no excuse to not use any of your abilities. And finally, her Crystal Strength 60 is the Flourish of Steel Extend. Much like the Spark Strike Extend, this increases the use of Flourish of Steel by 1, increases its potency, improves the Striker's max brave up and attack up effect, extends the buffs granted by Flourish of Steel by 2, and Brave Attack turns into Brave Attack Plus while she is on the Striker stance or the Commando stance. And finally, let's talk about her artifact passives, which is probably the most interesting parts in this section. Of course, she gets the buff guard up and break boost as well, but the ones that you're after are the Spark Strike power up and of course the Flourish of Steel power up. For me personally, I like the Flourish of Steel power up because it does have that extra HP damage at the end, and you want to deal as much brave damage as possible in order for you to maximize your HP damage. While Spark Strike power up is actually a second for myself because I feel like sometimes the Flourish of Steel doesn't really give you that extra boost in damage, but the Spark Strike has that, so it is another option and is an elemental base. So if you partnered with Vincent, you will probably get extra damage using the Spark Strike ability. Now this all in preference of course, and the next ones that you're after is obviously the max attack, and if you are capping your brave, obviously the max brave artifact passive is probably what you want to look for. But I think it's pretty clear cut that the Flourish of Steel is what most people will be going after, and Spark Strike and Attack will be in second and third respectively, depending on which one you're after. Okay, so now we know all her command abilities, passive abilities, artifact passives, and we even know a little bit something about lightning. So how does lightning stack up in Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia? Well, simply put, she is in a very good position right now, especially in the global version. You'll see a lot of people actually rocking lightning as their preferred character. And I can't say I blame them because of her high turn rate and her ability to dish out fast DPS is a welcome to any group. And I also would like to note that I didn't mention this with Squall, but in terms of combination or party composition, Squall doesn't actually have a lot of party composition combos because you don't really want to add a lot of Brave Battery because you won't be able to use these Renzo Kuken Plus and Solid Barrier Plus to their best abilities. But when it comes to Lightning, she will take all this extra Brave as much as possible in order for her to maximize her Flourish of Steel ability. So all the characters that give you extra Brave, such as Aiko and now Aerith, and I know Kryl does it at a certain point as well, Hope as well. I mean, all these Brave Battery characters are very, very good party composition with Lightning. And not only that, she also has a very good combination with Vincent as well, thanks to his Live Wire ability, which will make your Spark Strike hit even harder than it does right now. As for the Japanese version, as you guys can see, that she actually has her EX weapon now. And let me tell you something, this is the flashiest EX ability I have ever seen. There's slow motion happening and it hits a ton of damage. It's just insane. I do believe that if you have a very good composition with Lightning, it would be able to hit a single target for at least, I would say, nearly 50k HP. The initial hit would, if you have almost maxed out your Brave, will be about 20k, and then it'll be about, I would say 16 if there's debuffs there, and another 16, so it's definitely a high burst of DPS. Now, I would like to mention that this is only a single target one as well, but it's definitely really flashy, and I'm actually been trying to get it myself, but unfortunately I haven't been lucky when it comes to the gacha system in the Japanese version. And before I do go, I would just like to give you guys a little bit of tip on how to play lightning, and this is something that I haven't done with Squall as well, but when it comes to, I suppose this applies to every character, but when it comes to co-oping, definitely use all your abilities, because if you don't, it's such a waste when you kill the boss and you still have like 4 or 5 abilities just lying around. You know, it could have been made the kill a lot faster. And with lightning, you have 6 totals of her spark strike and another 6 of her flourish of steel. So I would take advantage of that and basically use them alternately. So what I mean by that is, what I personally do is use spark strike first and then use flourish of steel the next turn, and then just keep on rinse and repeating. Now obviously this works very well, especially if you have her 15 CP max limit break weapon and her 35 CP max limit break weapon as well, because they do give you those extra buffs for that particular stance. So yeah, I think that's it for this video, guys. Remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. As always, I would like to hear from you guys what you think of lightning, and have you been using her at all during the character events? And yeah, I would like to hear from you guys who you want me to feature next, of course, and I will try and feature that character in this series. Also follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.